Secretary of Treasury.
Secretary of Treasury.
Deals with money.
Deals with money.
Secretary.
Hi, and welcome back to Mr. Raymond's Civics EOC Academy, where today we're going to begin looking outside of America with how different countries set up their governments. Last time we finished up federalism, the system of sharing powers between the central government and the state governments, and this will come up in our lesson today. Today we're going to look at different forms of government, such as direct democracy, representative democracy, socialism, communism, monarchy, oligarchy, and autocracy. You're also going to look at different systems of government. Note that systems and forms are two different things, and these include parliamentary, federal, confederal, and unitary. And just remind your teachers that this PowerPoint, lesson plans, and activities are all available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just search for Mr. Raymond's Civics EOC Academy. So what is the difference between a system of government and a type or form of government? Well, systems look at how power is shared between the various levels of government. Remember, your levels are national or central at the top, state or province in the middle, and local towns, cities, and villages at the bottom. So we looked at a federal system in the U.S., which shares power between the national and state governments. And this is what systems are about. They're about the different levels. Types of government are how the government operates, who in particular holds the power in the government, and the idea of how best to govern. For example, democracy is a form or type of government, while federal is a system of government. So we're going to start with systems of government. And on your state exam, you're very likely to see a chart like this. The arrows in these charts explain which direction power and interaction flows. And if you memorize the direction of power in these charts, you'll be able to answer your test questions. For a unitary government, the power is held by the national government alone, who tell the local governments what to do. So we see the arrows heading out from the central government. In a confederal system, the states have all the power, so you see the direction of power is coming from them. For a federal system, the national or central government share power with the states, so you see the arrows pointing back and forth. It's really that simple, but we'll look closer at these systems. Hopefully you remember the confederal system, in which the states hold all of the power. Again, here we see the arrows as the direction of power. This is where local or state governments establish a relationship to create a national government to deal with some limited issues. Now you have to remember that the central government is just another term for the national government. So the US government or the French government or the government of China, these are central governments. In a confederal system, the central government is very weak. So hopefully you remember that a confederation is the first system of government that the United States had under the Articles of Confederation. You can tell right by the name alone. The South during the Civil War also had a confederation. In fact, soldiers who fought for the South were called the Confederates. Remember, the reason that the original 13 colonies created a confederation under the Articles of Confederation was to fight the British. They didn't want to give up power to a national government. They just wanted to function as 13 independent states. So building an army to defend a country would be a reason regional states might want to create a confederation. Another reason to create this system would be to protect trade, which is what the European Union is today. The countries of Europe have created this weak central union to combine their economies. Very few countries today use confederal governments. One example would be Belgium, which has two states, Flanders in the north and French-speaking Wallonia region in the south. These two states keep their independence and power to rule, but are united under the central union of Belgium. The federal system is the one that we covered in our section on federalism. Again, this is the system which the national and the regional or state governments share power, so you'll see the arrows going both ways. In the United States federal system, system, you live under a U.S. government, but you also live under a state government, such as Florida or California or Texas. Each level has their own powers and responsibilities. Federal systems are good for large countries like the United States because you have a local government which is more in line with your section of the country, but a large country that can do big things like protect you and the environment as well as trade with other countries. A lot of large countries have federal systems, such as Argentina, which is divided into 23 provinces, Germany with 16 states, India, a country of over 1 million people, divided into 7 provinces, and then further into 29 states. So all of these countries have their local regional governments, but they also have national or central governments. In a federal system, the people elect their leaders on the various levels of government. Here is the executive for Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel, and she is like the president for the country. And the people who live in the state of Bavaria, Germany, have another executive, Horst Seehofer, who would be like the governor of a state. A unitary system works well for smaller countries, which don't need to divide into regions. In this system, the national or central has all of the power, and they direct the local governments like cities or towns on what to do. Here, the national government passes laws and runs education and the police for the entire country, but gives some power to local cities or towns to run the day-to-day operations of these programs. Countries who have unitary systems include Britain, France, and Italy. They have a national government that runs the whole country. And here's a typical state exam question for your systems. In a unitary system, the Constitution places all of the power in the central government. A parliamentary system isn't one of the traditional systems of government. This isn't about the different levels of government, but about the different branches of government. A parliamentary system is about how you choose the executive for a national government. Here is a comparison between the parliamentary system and what we have, which is a presidential system. In a presidential system, the voters elect the legislative branch, which in America we call Congress, and the voters elect the executive branch, which is headed by the president. In a parliamentary system, the voters elect members of the legislative branch, or parliament, and the parliament chooses the chief executive, often called the prime minister. Britain is the best known example of a parliamentary system. In this system, whichever party holds a majority of the seats, they choose one of its members to be the prime minister. So what are some advantages of this system? Well, since the prime minister is a member of the legislature, it's much easier for the executive to get laws passed that they are interested in, or to influence the lawmaking body to use, say, military force or pass treaties. However, some disadvantages would be that the people don't get to directly choose the executive, and there's less checks and balances between the two branches. Now, a parliamentary system is often described as having a weak executive, but there have been many influential prime ministers in British history, including the famous Winston Churchill, chosen by his Conservative Party to lead the country throughout World War II. So remember, unlike the big 3 systems of government, which describe sharing power between the levels of government, the parliamentary system is about choosing an executive for the country. And that's the end of part 1, Systems of Government. But up next, make sure you check out Forms of Government.